afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us on this Memorial Day. If you're outside of the United States, well, it's Memorial Day in the United States, a day where everybody gets together, hangs out, grills, or otherwise has a good time. And we're certainly going to do that here today for the SPL. I'm joined here by my buddy Anatoly. We're going to get into some North American action and some European action. But today's a particularly important day for some of these teams gearing up. Sweden is on the horizon, more specifically DreamHack in the tournament they're in, and we have a couple of teams competing for that today.
And today in the North American side of things, we have Enemy versus Denial, which is going to be a clinching scenario for Enemy if they could potentially find 2 wins under their belt.
Right. 2 wins will enable an Enemy to go directly to DreamHack. They will not pass go. They will collect $200, maybe even more if they win. But 1 win will put them in a potential tiebreak scenario. If they take 1 win and Denial split down the middle, we might actually see a 1-game playoff between these 2 teams.
It's all going to be dependent on if Denial can find the wins and if Eager can find the losses for Denial to overcome and find their spot into DreamHack.
It's a much different scenario for Denial, on the other hand. If they wind up with 0 wins today, they got to just sort of cross their fingers and pray that Eager loses. If they wind up with 1 win today, they got to cross their fingers and just sort of pray that Eager loses. But if they win 2 games today, if we do see I don't know if it's even an upset anymore, but if we do see Denial take 2 wins, what happens, Toly?
Then during the Eager match in the very last week, it's going to be dependent on that set, whether Eager will go or whether Denial will go.
It'll be very rough for the Orange Dogs, but we'll certainly give it a chance and keep an eye on that. That'll be our second match that we're looking at today. For now, it's all Europe leftovers who are definitely in a raw spot at the moment. They really, I don't know if they are really looking towards DreamHack, but Cringe Crew certainly are. This team started off the season very hot and then sort of came to a lull, but still very capable. 12-10, they sit. You can see leftovers way down at the bottom, 8-14. So with 12 wins and 10 losses, Cringe Crew are in a spot where they can also make DreamHack, but there's only 1 spot available in Europe as Panthera and Paradigm have already enabled their trip to DreamHack to be secured. So Cringe Crew today, they're looking for some wins, obviously, but let's get a little bit more specific. How would Cringe Crew today put themselves in the best possible situation to head to DreamHack?
They need to find 2 wins in this specific set. They need to split against Panthera, and then their last set against Torpedo, they need to win that set as well. The last remaining spot is between Hungry for More and Cringe Crew, so those 2 teams are battling. And also, they're going to need Hungry for More to lose their games. Depending.
It'll be really rough for Cringe Crew, but if they go ahead and they 2-0 here, they're still in it and all that good stuff. Here's the problem, though. Cringe Crew take on Panthera later on, so they definitely need to have these wins come a little bit sooner than later. Panthera is still in a situation, despite the fact that they've already clinched and they're surviving and they're ready to go to DreamHack, this team is still certainly ready to win. So Panthera, earlier in the season, I think teams going up against Panthera counted those as auto losses. Now, probably not the same conversation as Cringe Crew really want to put it in extra gear. So today, they're trying to find some 2 wins. How do you think this team really enables themselves to find the wins?
They have to lean on EmilZy a little bit to look for the plays, and specifically going back to Panthera. Panthera have been splitting recently against some opponents, against Paradigm and Hungry for More recently. So it's not unheard of if Cringe Crew were to find a split in the next series as well.
So Cringe Crew, they might be able to find those wins versus Paradigm, or Panthera, excuse me. But today is all about the leftovers. I mean, this team, again, you want to talk about teams starting off hot. I was very impressed with this squad early on. I thought Badgah might have the makings of some of the other supports that have surrounded themselves with a bunch of relatively unknown players and found success. We've seen that in teams like iRaffers, former Epsilon, now Panthera. Pain Deviant, of course, is a very popular name, and I sort of looked to Badgah for that. But in the middle of the season, we really saw a sort of, not even a let off of the gas. They got out of the car, Toly. They just weren't doing it anymore. Now, towards the end of the season, they're obviously not in the running for DreamHack. Mathematically, sure, but not so much realistically. How do they avoid relegation?
They're going to need to find the 2 wins here, obviously, and they're going to need to have that resurgence in the leadership that's within them. We didn't see that in the start of the season, and it's looking a little sloppy for them after coming off the bye. It's kind of rebuilding process for leftovers right now, unfortunately.
Leftovers trying to stick around and make it in this split, avoiding relegation. On the other hand, Cringe Crew trying to pave the way towards DreamHack. We'll get into picks and bans right here for game number 1. It's going to be Cringe Crew taking on Leftovers. Up in the ultimate, not going to find anyone. There's the combo. Kero off the assist. There's Kero, double kill from the side lane. Comes out onto Dimmy. Kero winds up with a triple kill at the 10-minute mark. Repikas lands down. Half health for the Titan. Axioz takes out Zeus.
That is it. Axioz and Repikas, the team are respawning.
Left side, Chaos side is on the right side. Left side is actually Order side. But Cringe Crew, they're the ones with the first pick, and they're the ones with the first ban here today, folks. Going against Leftovers. Badgah, as I said, is probably the biggest name on this squad, but we've seen a lot of good stuff, specifically out of Nika and Cherryo. Jungler has recently taken the mid role. Okay, all right, fine. But so Cherryo and Nika are who I'm looking at, and Cringe Crew certainly doing the same. They're banning the Najah away.
Now, the way they've been playing before, the last time that these two teams faced each other around week number 2, Cringe Crew did win that 2-0, and also last time that they played, Jungler was in the jungle position and Cherryo was in the mid position. So we're going to see how these two teams have adapted ever since they've played, also speed buff being implemented again since the bye, so we'll see how these two teams adapted.
I love the bans coming out from Cringe Crew. You've got the Najah, who Cherryo has done fantastically on, and the Giannis, which has proven to be really the only safe pick for jungler. We've seen jungler in the mid lane again, play on the Zeus, play some other characters, and he just hasn't been as successful as he has been with the Giannis.
Giannis is definitely a very safe god for any mid player specifically, especially when you're not used to the role. You're trying to get that mobility for you and the rest of your team.
And so a lot about the mid lane and the jungle together. And right away we see 2 jungle picks off the bat. Nemesis, first pick. It's funny because this isn't the first time we've seen this. The season started out and the joke was, the meme was, Nemesis, you lose. Auto lose, like completely get decimated, but teams kept picking it, and everybody at home said, well, it must be working out at scrims, something's there. Now we're seeing it again. This isn't the first time we've seen the first pick Nemesis. We know what Nemesis brings to a team. What changed? Why is she so successful?
Well, the reasoning why she's also hasn't been working was because it was in the North American region, and some of those players in the jungle position from those teams are used to different style of junglers. Okay. Where in the European side of things, Captain Twig has made Nemesis work in the European side of things, and now everybody's kind of running it. It's like, okay, Nemesis can actually work, especially if you're an all-in comp or if you're defending against an all-in comp and you want to burst down the enemy support that initiates on you.
So Nemesis works out more like a warrior or a frontliner in the jungle than a traditional assassin.
Especially doing more damage with the recent changes to her passive, allowing her to build that percentage debuff a little bit better there.
So one of the first players to really make Nemesis work, surprisingly to some, was actually Captain Twig. And his spin on the character was just full defense, frontline, in and out. The ultimate, you don't really need any scaling on it. It does percent damage and takes away takes away flat protections. So that's really what you're looking for out of the character. So Cringe Crew, we're going to see Cherryo adopt this type of assessment to the game. He'll be more of a frontliner, assumably, if that's where Cringe Crew want to go. With that Nemesis selection, we see the other side for Leftovers. It's interesting. Nemesis used to be a counter pick against specifically tanky comps. Now it's chosen against Leftovers. Cringe Crew looking to sort of dissuade Leftovers from picking a lot of tanks.
And on top of the Nemesis pick for Cringe Crew, they pair that up with a Bacchus and a Zeus. So they're going to be leaning, trying to do a lot of damage. If Athena ever initiates on top of Cringe Crew, that's going to be their primary target.
So Cringe Crew looking for that all-in composition like you were talking about. Find some guy, isolate him, and then destroy him. Leftovers, on the other hand, different scenario. We see 2 globals right away, and then Batz, which is a fantastic initiation, but in my eyes, an even better counter initiation. Once you have Nemesis come in from the Cringe Crew, Batz is going to be able to make their plan go haywire by dropping the totem.
It seems like Leftovers are going for a strategy where they want to leave the Apollo alone for a little bit, look for that farm, look for the split push potential, have Athena roaming around the map, setting up Leftovers. Athena and Batz paired together, no matter what middle Leftovers choose, is a very good team comp for a 3v3 between middle, support, and jungle.
Cringe Crew's first bans came out targeting some of the players that looked very strong in Leftovers. Ideally, Cherryo and Jungler, the Giannis and the Najah. Same thing for the second round of bans coming out of Leftovers. Shaggyshenk and Shaggyshenk was just banned out. You've got Oyi and Kronos, and the performance that Shaggy has had on this Kronos this year has been lights out.
And I wouldn't be surprised if a Jingwei would be picked for Shaggyshenk, wanting to find still a little bit more mobility into his kit and being able to out-rotate his opposite. Well, not even necessarily out-rotate Apollo, because you realistically can't, but at least try to keep up with that rotation.
I love the raw ban here coming out from Cringe Crew. Keep in mind, the Jungler Cherryo's role swap was, when we asked about it, it was voiced as somewhat permanent. but I expect this roster to be a little bit malleable. Some of these players can play different positions given the scenario. And with that Ra, Cherryo has been fantastic on it. If Cherryo does wind up playing mid today, that would be one of the gods that he's going to land on specifically, especially with the Hun-Batz combination. The Nuwa pick is interesting. Why don't you break this one down for me?
So the Nuwa is very good defensively against all-in comps, which is what Cringe Crew is trying to run here. Anytime somebody's going to initiate on her, she's going to do so much damage, bursting those clay golems with a shining metal combo, doing a lot of damage, debuffing their magically as well.
You want to talk about bursts? We've got Cupid here. So all-in combination, Cupid's able to deploy that heart bomb from a distance. This is one of the first times we're going to be actually able to see what Cupid is bringing to the table. What's Shaggyshenk looking for out of this pick? It's spicy.
Shaggyshenk, not normally known to be playing Cupid and this aggressively, but whenever you have EmilZy playing Bacchus and you're going to have Repikas playing Nemesis, this is a nice, aggressive, all-in composition from Cringe Crew. I'm excited to see how it's going to pan out in the duel lane.
Spicy picks for a spicy Memorial Day, folks. Cringe Crew trying to take their way into Sweden leftovers, trying to avoid relegation. Cupid versus Nuwa. Let's take it to it.
Jungler whipping the ult, but the snipe is even better. Cherryo. Really pumping up the damage barrier, taking too much damage.
Nice,
Nika's
Nika.
in, however, be able to confirm that kill. The root is out. Nika gets that double kill. Great rotation.
Aha. As I said, Soli, that leftovers roster a little bit malleable, so Cherryo will be playing in the mid position. I kind of figured with the Ra ban that honestly we would see the Cherryo. So it's going to be Cherryo in the mid. Jungler will be playing in the jungle again. Thank whoever you want to thank. That makes my life hella easier, and I'm certainly very happy. But really, I want to focus on this Cupid. Shouts to my friend Volpixies. Everybody's got their own pocket god. That's one of her favorites. So Shaggyshenk playing on this Cupid. Why do we see it in the SPL?
Right now, it's just basically trying to force purification early. Anytime the Hearts of Love from the ultimate gets out there, you have to use purification and dash away. Or as an Apollo can technically do, he could just use his ultimate as well if he's not afraid of getting bursted down during that duration of the ultimate.
One of the less interesting things that I want to keep my eye on going forward, God, Shaggyshenk, stop that, is the build path. We've seen some hunters forgo the lifesteal, at Axioz specifically, and a lot of players have since left the Aussie at home in favor of Ninja Tabby and just taking out some other things as far as attack speed is concerned. I'm really curious if Shaggyshenk is going to go a build that doesn't have lifesteal because of the natural healing and natural sustain that Cupid brings.
It's very possible with the hearts as well as the burst damage that you will be doing with your heart bombs, as well as just any sort of compliments that you can get with the Bacchus as well. You're going to look for that burst damage. You don't necessarily need lifesteal like you mentioned because of those hearts.
So this long lane here for the duo guys, EmilZy and Shaggyshenk. Bacchus and Cupid versus the Athena and Apollo. Very classic lane coming out here. All four of these gods very old in the Smite world.
Definitely a little bit retro here, seeing the Cupid and the Bacchus. The only thing more retro would be a Cupid and a Sobek.
Yep. The old Sobek-Cupid combo was once super devastating. It was just really uncontrollable to deal with the flip into the heart bomb. So EmilZy going to try and pull that same combination off by way of a knock-up into the heart bomb, because the heart bomb does a lot of damage.
And speaking of damage, Badgah taking a lot of poke from EmilZy and Shaggyshenk combination, and if they can keep this up, then they can keep putting up the pressure in terms of when the boars are about to respawn.
You know, I'm laughing a little bit because it was just yesterday that I had a conversation with my friends where Cupid just isn't pickable in some people's eyes. Just not viable enough. He seems very similar to Ho Yi, but right there you see the burst damage coming out onto Arkkyl. After that heart bomb pops, Arkkyl taking a lot of poke. Is that really what we're looking for? This hyper aggression?
You have to be aggressive if you're Cringe Crew in this situation with the hearts available to you. Also, EmilZy picking up the meditation as Arkkyl is forced to dash away.
Shaggyshenk, on the other hand, dashing inwards, which also gives Cupid an attack speed steroid. So Shaggyshenk really making use of this Cupid kit, and just expect all in. Like you said, the Nemesis sort of showed us that Cringe Crew looking to play aggressive and all in as far as their grand strategy. Well, even in this short lane on the small scale, certainly looking to go all in. Axioz, on the other hand, he's looking for bit by bit against this Osiris. He's got the heal. and in general should be fine as long as jungler doesn't get too crazy.
And we do have jungler looking around the corner, trying to exploit the fact that tier's not that high level right now, doesn't have Lawbringer, doesn't have a high level sustain available. Repikas does sniff it out, however, and he's ready for the counter gank.
And Repikas does very well against Osiris, or I should correct myself and say that Nemesis does very well specifically against Osiris. Osiris has natural damage reduction, not protections, damage reduction, which is nasty and tough to deal with. 16 flat when everything's all well and good for the Osiris, but percent damage, that's exactly what you're looking for against a target like that.
Especially against the solo laner. It doesn't really matter who you are in the solo lane. Having that flat percentage taken away from you at the very beginning is very scary. And right off the bat, Nemesis is going to back, trying to finish off her boots in preparation for the speed buff to come up and then maybe look for a play afterwards.
It's very interesting seeing that back there. Cringe Crew looking for, and we're even going to see Zeus back. Cringe Crew are looking for a very specific time to fight. Nemesis was able to stay in the jungle perhaps for another wrap around. You see speed buff just popped, and the bottom two Harpies as well. But Repikas takes that back to get the power, to get amplified with those boots too, because Cringe Crew are looking for a situation here. Where's Repikas going to turn his face now that he has ultimate?
He has his ultimate available as Axioz comes back into the lane after teleporting, so blue buff's going to be gone for them. Looks like Repikas is going to neglect the solo lane right now, and he's going to look for those left side mid Harpies, but EmilZy is here paired up.
And this is really what Cringe Crew is looking for. They want to get both of these sets of Harpies. They want to go ahead. Nemesis, one of the more item-dependent gods in Smite. They want to get this lead going for Repikas. So you see the back from Cringe Crew, both mid and jungle back to buy a couple of items. And what that allows them to do, they can go for the left and right mid Harpies, and if leftovers decide to fight them, they have some of these options available. Jungler's done the same, but he's picked up boots 3. He waited.
Luckily for Cringe Crew, they were there waiting. However, they didn't have the timer. They were a little bit missed, too early rather, for there, so they had to defend the mid wave. There was a small opening for leftovers to take those left mid Harpies, but elected to go for their own red buff instead.
Cherryo by himself, going to be joined by Jungler in this overhand smash. Will finish up the left two Harpies, or excuse me, the right two Harpies.
And right now with those 1-for-1 mid Harpies being split, looking at the gold, favoring Cringe Crew a little bit just simply because of the way the duo lane panned out with the Cupid constantly putting pressure against the Apollo.
Pressure is certainly the key for Cringe Crew. You saw the duo lane Cupid and Bacchus combo really pushing that forward. And then here again, this is the second rotation of fire elementals that Cringe Crew have been able to get because of the pressure in the solo lane. Axioz doing a good job dealing with what Nika can bring on the Osiris.
And now with the Hunbats having boost 3, he's looking to potentially make a play. He's currently level 7 as Nemesis just now hits level 7. Jungler trying to lean on the solo lane, allowing Nika to still put pressure onto Axioz, and maybe if he finds the kill, then the Osiris can maybe run away with it afterwards.
With the Purification online for Zeus, the gank into jungler is a little problematic. The only way he can force the Purification is by way of the ultimate, and that's going to give jungler the best position to really kill Zeus. So the ultimate comes out, and then Purification is chased out, and jungler doesn't really have a tool for another gank until the ultimate arrives again. So that's why I think we've seen jungler shade over to the short lane more so than the mid.
Especially considering the fact that the way tier's passive works, it's only for a second duration. However, if you can catch the tier against the wall with the Fear No Evil, that's going to last forever as well, and that could allow enough burst damage for Nika to follow up and find the kill.
Fear No Evil is one of the few crowd control abilities that actually works against a tier, because instead of just a flat crowd control like a stun or otherwise, you get a flat out just recurrence every couple of nanoseconds, I guess. What is it, microseconds? What's lower than second?
I'm going to go with nano, final answer.
0.5 of a
Final
second
answer.
is 5 nanoseconds?
I'm going to say nano, final
Listen,
answer.
I'm not a scientist, but either way, multiple outputs of crowd control on a very quick basis comes out from that Fear No Evil, so you're able to handle the tier. Jeez, none of us should really be scientists.
Not at all. That's why we're casting Smite right now.
You know the metric system at least?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I know the North American metric system.
I know the metric system. That's all I got as far as other things are concerned.
So EmilZy's looking to play very aggressive in the duo lane, looking for the red buff potential steal along with Shaggyshenk. Not going to find the So Beautiful to secure his own red buff. So Cringe Crew doing a good job controlling the first real objective of the game.
And again, talking about the pressure here in the long lane, Toli, it's all well and good if you're able to pressure the enemy out, but just looking at the gold differential between the two hunters, it's 100, if that. It's not that much. So all of that pressure that Cringe Crew was able to get wasn't really a big deal until they extended themselves in the jungle going for that red buff.
It's just a game of inches. You're trying to find any sort of little positional, or what?
Or centimeters.
Or centimeters, or nanoseconds.
Nanometers?
Nanometers.
Cherryo looking for some buffs of his own. He's going to go ahead and clear the back jungle with Jungler. Again, I really just want to issue a personal thank you to Leftovers for switching the roles again. Hopefully it's not just for this matchup. Jungler in the mid lane was definitely not a fun thing to commentate, but we've got Cherryo back here in the mid lane, and I'm very curious as to what really brought this about, because is it the specific matchup? We'll find out in a moment. Repikas is crowd controlled a little bit by the Jungler, but Leftovers ultimately wind up just fighting and expending some ultimates. Traded. Batz ultimate, traded out for Zeus ultimate.
No purification used either, except for the Nemesis. The Zeus still having his purification, so he can still be looking to play aggressive. And EmilZy is going to be looking for a setup potentially with the Zeus, and if they can find some burst damage out here, the Gold Fury can be potentially easily contested.
The Zeus ultimate down does a number of things for Leftovers. Not only does the Gold Fury look a little bit tastier or even contestable if Cringe Crew decide to go for it themselves, but also now Kero's a better gank. You can see EmilZy and Kero grouping up here, and there's the vision.
There's the vision that we were talking about from the new one. They had no vision on the Gold Fury, so they were afraid that Cringe Crew was going to start that up. And EmilZy going to pick up the hearts just to give some mana back to Shaggyshenk as he goes back to the lane. Apollo even using his ultimate in fear that the Gold Fury was started.
And that's one of the biggest things about the new op pick. I actually am not personally a fan of the choice, but Badgah is going to get in trouble. Ultimated on. Might be first blood, and it will be. Kero, credit for that one going the way to the mid laner. Cringe Crew do exactly what you said they were going to do, Totally. All in composition.
They have the Nemesis ult, they have the burst damage coming out of Bacchus as well. It's a lot of damage, even though the Bacchus elected to go for the reinforced Greaves here.
Right.
He still has a lot of damage as long as he can keep his Drunkometer at a very high rate there. So now Cringe Crew gonna potentially look to start this Gold Fury. There is no new ulti, there's no Apollo ulti. They do have to worry about the Athena ulti, however.
And they do have to worry about Jungler's ultimate. What a good tool for disruption, and that's exactly what we'll see. Leftovers get poked out more than they poke in, though, and Jungler's going to be forced out the backside, and Badgah's going to be forced back to the fountain. Shaggyshenk, credit for that one to the Heartman. Now going directly against Nika, who's made the rotation. Repikas is here as well. Arkkyl chased out very low, and Nika will walk away as well. So Cringe Crew don't pick up the objective, but they get a kill and protect their Zeus.
That was very important for the Zeus to disengage there. Now, not only did the Zeus disengage, they were able to hold off Nika during that whole encounter without Axioz making a presence. His teleport just now coming back up. He was walking to the Gold Fury. It's like, all right, I'm going to go back to the soul lane. There's nothing much going on there. So even though Gold Fury wasn't taken by either team, Cringe Crew still extending their lead slightly.
So the reinforced Greaves coming out of Bacchus, normally see with the shoes of the Magi, just as a compliment what Bacchus does. He's very much basically a warrior, right? He wants to do a lot of damage and a little bit of control and setup. So with the reinforced Greaves, is he? I feel like he's looking more for the CCR than anything else.
He doesn't have to worry about a lot of damage coming his way, as we do have Leftovers trying to sneak a Gold Fury. Having the Clay Golems tank for them allows it for so much easier of a time for Leftovers to get this around the 10-minute mark. It's going to cut the lead a little bit, but they're still a little behind now.
Very sneaky coming out of Leftovers, a 10-minute Gold Fury, where Cringe Crew were actually the team to start it up. No kills that Leftovers employed to really chase anybody out. They go ahead and get the Gold Fury and the right side Harpies, and whatever small lead the Cringe Crew is able to amass by way of first blood and otherwise is going to be taken away. There's the ultimate out of Cringe Crew as they're getting aggressive, and Cherryo dies in his own jungle. Jungler tries to answer back. 4 players crowd controlled, but there's only 3 from Leftovers to deal with it and capitalize, again going the other way. 4-zip, Kero on top by a large margin, and the mid-tier 1 tower is going to get looked at by Cringe Crew, and it's going to be taken down by Cringe Crew. Already gone.
And with Apollo split pushing the left, they're going to need to get a trade for a 1-for-1 tower. However, Cringe Crew aren't done quite yet.
2?
Hanbat's ultimate is down, so they're going to extend this. They have the Cupid hearts to allow them to keep sieging. So this is a very nice calculated aggression from Cringe Crew. They recognize that with some cooldowns being down for Leftovers, after that Gold Fury that was snuck from them, they can find the easy kill onto Cherryo. Cherryo wasn't even able to get up into the air before the Nemesis and the Bacchus ulti and the Zeus detonate just destroyed him.
And that's the quickness that Cringe Crew is really looking for, just that 1-2 punch, and followed up by the 3 with Kero, who has been, I mean, fantastic. He's leading damage by 600, and at this point in the game, that's actually a large margin at the moment. Osiris, of course, being in the solo lane, but Shaggyshenk, very quickly, 3,500 player damage on the Hunter, and you can look at Apollo. He's just about 1,000 down.
I like the disengage from Axioz. He used the Fearless and the Power Cleave to move the opponents from leftovers back into their tier 1 tower, as Repikas was there to potentially bail him out if things got a little dicey. Axioz still had his ultimate as well with the blue buff regenning, so there was no way to really kill this tier currently.
You know, Cringe Crew right here, sometimes you look at a team play well and you see them play against either higher tier opponents or lower tier opponents, and you're able to judge their performance, or it's harder to judge their performance because of the level of opponent they're playing. Today, I think, regardless of if it's leftovers or a higher seeded team, I think we're just seeing Cringe Crew sort of back at proper form. This team looks a lot more cohesive than we've seen in recent weeks.
And it's dictated by the strategy that they've implemented. They picked the strategy and they're executing it very well right now. Ever since that Athena first blood around the tier 1 mid tower, every little objective that they're controlling has been very calculated. Even before the first blood, just picking up Cupid and Bacchus and forcing a red buff invade without any sort of realistic contest, they're currently on an objective path to constantly take one after another away from you.
I like how Cringe Crew also, after the Gold Fury went down, they made an effort. They said, okay, the Gold Fury went down. We have to do something to take that back, right? The Invader or otherwise. Sometimes you see teams, because you know you have to make that choice, sometimes you see teams force things that aren't necessarily there. Cringe Crew were certainly very aggressive, finding kills on the enemy side of the jungle by the red buff, but it was calculated aggression, and I think that's what separates some of the top-seeded teams from the bottom-seeded teams, that calculation.
And they also had the Bacchus with the meditation as well. They have the Cupid dash to help the Bacchus escape, so they had some tools at their disposal for the disengage, which is very important because whenever you have an aggressive engagement on the opponent's side of the map, you need to have an exit plan available to you.
One more time, Cringe Crew going to get very aggressive, heading over to the speed buff side.
Not going to find anything. However, Axioz doing a good job poking out Nika, so in this situation, Axioz can rotate before Nika can.
And I love the positioning here coming out from Axioz. He's behind the tier 1 tower, very aggressive with the enemy there, but he knows that his team is over here by the speed buff, trying to invade a little bit, so this all-around pressure from the team. They were in 2 separate engagements. Kero's over here stealing a speed buff or trying to steal the speed buff away. It'll ultimately go the way of leftovers, but just that pressure, Axioz pressuring in a different engagement, still hyper aggressive.
I like the idea that Kero tried to actually pick up the speed buff. The only thing he forgot was he had his red buff available to him, so he kind of forgot. But either way, I like the zoning also, as we do have aggression in the right side.
Cherryo already below half HP, so leftovers on the back foot on this fight. Repikas very in control of this team fight, very healthy as well. No tier 1 tower here. It has fallen already. So Repikas wearing leftovers speed buff. He's got the enemy buffs and he's got the enemy right in front of him. Not going to push this issue as Leftovers has responded very smartly and put a number of players here on the right side of the map.
So the way Axioz was also zoning Nika earlier on, he was basically denying a lot of gold and experience under the tier 1 tower currently, being a big bully. Has that 3-level advantage as well going into the mid game as the Gold Fury is about to respawn right now. Cringe Crew's looking very solid. Having the sustain and having the levels as well is very important for them to get this next objective.
It's very interesting here, the game that Cringe Crew has been playing. You saw that Repikas wanted to sit on the right side of the map. Initially, he wanted to take that Osiris out, but the opportunity wasn't available, so we saw a lot more attention in the mid lane. Kero winds up with 2 kills, and then aggression into the jungle. Now that the opportunity has presented itself, you can see the strategy from Cringe Crew. They want to take out this Osiris. Nemesis, the entire team hanging out by that speed buff. They know they're going to be able to drag the Osiris into these team fights, and then even more so, Nemesis ult on top of a Sunder. That tanky Osiris is not going to be tanky.
It's going to do a lot of damage, especially when you have vision control around the Gold Fury with Zeus chain lightning off of his shield right now. EmilZy trying to set up Kero for some damage. Going to find a little bit of poke. Right now, Leftovers has no sustain. However, Cringe Crew do with a heart.
They not only have the sustain, they have the aggression, and they have the momentum. 16.5 on the clock, only 4 kills, but they're all Cringe Crews, and they're leading by 4,000 gold. Jungler's going to jump in to stop the Gold Fury aggression, but Repikas going to smoke him out with Kero, who finds another kill. Repikas coming around from the left side, looking for more slows onto the Osiris, pushed into the wall, and there's the heart bomb. There's a ton of damage. Nika's going to go down. Shaggyshenk credit for that. 6-0 Cringe Crew.
EmilZy doing a wonderful job at the beginning of that engagement, zoning 3 members, bursting down the Apollo, not allowing him to come to that team fight, forcing Jungler to go on the opposite side, engaging 1v4, but the only difference between Jungler and EmilZy is that Jungler's squishy and EmilZy not. So therefore, advantage Cringe Crew.
It took 30 seconds for Cringe Crew to push leftovers out of this jungle and then go ahead and take the gold for you. That's very impressive because that's a point in the game where there's a lot of, you got to wait your turn, you got to wait for the engagement, you got to find the player out. It's normally we see that last 50 to 60 seconds, almost a full minute, right? Just that half minute needed. Cringe Crew knew exactly who they wanted to target, and they just pulled the trigger.
Especially with Nemesis ulti paired up with the Zeus damage right now, Cringe Crew, that's what's allowing them to make these team fights and engagements last so much shorter than it really needs to be.
0-0-6 on the Nemesis, 3-0-3 on the Zeus, and then 1 kill for Bacchus, 2 kills for the Cupid. This is pretty much the exact slash line you really want. You've got your mid lane and your jungle, 100% kill participation. They're the ones that are starting all of the fights, and a few of them get shaded over by the dual lane. Those, you can see those team fights are the ones that Shaggyshenk is being involved in. So I love just the amount of conversation that Cringe Crew is having amongst all of each other instead of just by themselves.
Especially playing a different play style than you're normally used to seeing out of Cringe Crew. This is going to be very interesting to see if this is a style that they've adapted recently and going to stick with it, or if this just is another way to throw a wrench at the opponent, as we do have aggression from Axioz.
Flashy play with the Blink 180 Fearless, going to smoke jungler into the wall. But the monkey will ultimately be safe underneath the tier 2 and solo lane. But it's not about the kill. Axioz is sitting here. I mean, he's trying to send a message, right? I mean, no joking around. He's just pushing you against the wall. You're never safe. I'm going to steal your blue buff. Nika, you can watch me. Just watch me. Watch me. I'm going to take care of this. And then left side, the rest of the team does whatever they want.
Even if Axioz didn't steal the blue buff, the fact that Nika would get that last hit would prevent Jungler from getting that golden experience. So forcing out Jungler puts him more behind in this situation.
And Jungler's already sitting down half 1,000 gold, about half a level as well. Cringe Crew pushing out this tier 2 tower for free. And I say for free because leftovers didn't really want anything to do with that fight.
And with that second tier 2 tower down in the dual lane, that extends the advantage for Cringe Crew. About 8,000 gold, 8,500 experience. They're really putting they're just making a statement right now. And not even that many kills at the 19.5 minute mark. They're just very calculating about every little objective, making sure they have the vision, which allows the Nemesis and the Zeus and the Bacchus to play aggressively continuously.
And the fact that they're still shutting out leftovers is very important here, folks, because Cringe Crew, they got off to a hot start. You saw an 11.5 tier 2 tower. 11.5 minutes, Cringe Crew were able to pick up a tier 2 tower. A lot of teams might have took that and ran with it.
And considering the way that they started after the bye week, they were able to beat Fnatic 2-0 in their last set, but before that, they were 1-5, losing to Paradigm, losing to Hungry for More, splitting against Dignitas. So if they're able to beat leftovers right now, convincingly, this could be the momentum that they need going against Panthera next.
And so one of the things that I think got Cringe Crew into some trouble was the lack of identification on their team comps. They were playing early game aggression with later game team compositions and just really not identifying what their win con was in their composition, so to speak. Cringe Crew, quite the opposite here. They get off to a super hot start with that very early tier 2. They were able to find some early objectives as well. But Repikas and Kero are on 2 extremely late game gods. So knowing that, they don't go too aggressive. They just they stay aggressive and stay in the enemy's jungle, but they don't force team fights that aren't fair. They only force the team fights that they're 100% sure are going to go their way. And that's why we see 6-0, 20 minutes into this match.
And this is what you're going to need out of a team, at a top tier team that's trying to qualify to DreamHack. The competition is stiff. Panthera qualify, Paradigm qualify, Hungry for More are looking like a totally different team. Cringe Crew are looking like a totally different team as well, as we do have a blink engagement from Axioz under the tier 2.
Repikas playing it safe, and there's the aggression on a Badgah who's on the backside trying to zone out. There's the Zeus damage, and Nika smoked out by the detonate, and you see Badgah, jungler, Cherryo on the backside. Arkkyl lands in the middle of 4-heal Mez, and it might be able to allow him to get away. Cringe Crew no longer looking at the tower, now just looking at the players. Jungler in some trouble, 10% on the monkey. He's going to exit the easy way. Repikas looking towards Arkkyl, the only one on the backside. Cherryo finds a kill for the leftovers, 1 as Kero falls down from the mid lane. Repikas now, everybody's fighting in the fields of love, and they walk out except for Badgah. Very low is the Athena, and you can see EmilZy jumping on the other target. Arkkyl gets put down by the Hunter, and Badgah gets put down by the support. Duo lane action for Cringe Crew as they have 9 on the board and look towards the tier 2 tower. It'll crumble, and it's a rumble. only 10 kills, and 9 of them are Cringes.
3-for-1 trade favoring Cringe Crew there. Beautiful trade earlier on, allowing Arkyl's ultimate landing on top of 3 members, finding the mez, kind of delayed the tier 2 tower siege. Unfortunately for Leftovers, as soon as Shaggyshenk rotated, that spelled curtains for the rest of that team fight. And now, with Cringe Crew getting this advantage, they're going to be looking to play still a little bit more cautiously. They're not going to force the Fire Giant knowing that they don't have the burst damage available from the Zeus. They got the tier 2 tower. They're very content with that. They have a very good 10,000 goal lead right now. And off of that, they're just going to reset back and buy, use their gold in hand, and continue with more objectives.
I love what Shaggyshenk just did here. So side note, even though he does have the heals, we did see the Aussie pickup in lieu of the Ichabod. But so he had short sword already, the tier 1 crit for the Cupid, right? And then he had 2,900 gold in hand. So Cupid goes ahead and backs, and instead of finishing off the Deathbringer Malice or Rage, whatever he was going to build into, he picks up the Wind Demon right away, eager for that passive.
And EmilZy is eager to find more setup for Kero as the chain lightning does come up. Zeus ultimate trying to confirm the gold here. He does get leashed, however.
And that's a problem. Here comes Jungler. Cringe Crew still confirm it, despite Jungler's best efforts. Repikas going to turn around and put double digits on the board. Shaggyshenk answers as well with a kill of his own, and the chase is on. Badgah coming around the backside. You see Shaggy and Repikas on the butt, and everybody else on the top. Leftovers are coming around, and they're looking for the retreat. Badgah will take the fall for the team. Shaggyshenk with the 12th kill for the squad. Good purification from Cherryo. Makes Axioz simply wave at him, but the jump forward, looking for the power cleave, stunned out by the solo laner. Strong play, and the Sanctuary saves the life of the mid laner one more time. Axioz's aggression does not pay off by way of a kill, but the pings are out. No towers are available for Leftovers. Cringe Crew have the choice of whatever lane they choose to push up.
I like the aggression from Axioz at the end there. Even though he was chasing under the Phoenix, he forces the Purification and the Sanctuary, so the next time the team fight does happen, Cherryo is going to be a very easy target.
And this is a lot of fun. You see Cringe Crew here. They have their 2 main damage dealers out. Shaggyshenk is here, and we'll call Repikas a damage dealer for what it's worth because Zeus is busy dealing with the mid lane. Leftovers have to deal with this aggression coming out from Axioz and Kero, who are enough to control the defenders.
It's very easy for Zeus to zone out right now. He has a lot of mobility with that Winged Blade as well. He's going to be looking to hide around corners, and if you're going to come around that corner, here comes the shield, here comes the chain lightning, and there goes more than half your health.
And we see it in the damage charts. I mean, Zeus is sitting 5,000 damage above anybody. And it's a Nuwa who's guaranteed the global damage. Although we haven't seen too many ultimates out of her, it's just been raw shining metal combos.
She's been getting bursted down before the ultimate even does pan out for her. She's been struggling a lot as a result of the aggressive all-in composition from Cringe Crew. And it's a sort of well-balanced composition too, if you think about it, with the Cupid to sustain as well.
I mean, the idea, I don't know if it's the idea, but one of the things that Cringe Crew have at their disposal is the fact that Zeus ultimate and Shaggyshenk's Cupid ultimate are gigantic. I mean, you combine that with the shield that Zeus is going to throw out, you can't walk in the lane. You're just going to get annihilated. So Cringe Crew, they're going to use this area denial. Expect to see that on the Phoenixes themselves specifically because of how tight the corridors are there. Usually, defensive teams on the defensive use that to their advantage. It's not going to be in favor of Leftovers this time around.
Not at all. Cringe Crew are still going to have to be very calculating about how they decide to siege because they can't have the tier and the Bacchus both siege, leaving their squishies exposed in the backline. One of them has to go in and the other has to stay in the backline and peel. And this is exactly what Cringe Crew are doing. They're going to have the tier push out mid lane, and it's going to be probably the Bacchus initiating with tier peeling in the back.
Jumping right on the backside. Cherryo already very low, right into the ultimate, 25% or less for the mid laner. He's going to go back and heal to the fountain. And that pushback allows the left Phoenix to go down. And we see the right Phoenix by a tier taken out almost by himself. Kero will join the party, and the mid one goes down as well. Shell popped as Leftovers initiate onto the Cringe Crew. You can see the backside, Shaggyshenk being chased by Nika and everyone else. Up the mid, in flips Axioz. He gets one. Shaggyshenk gets another. That's 14 in total. The Titans being attacked. It's low. It's at 8K or less. All 5 members of Cringe Crew are here and ready to party. Nika and Arkkyl want to make it happen, but Arkyl's gone as soon as he lands. Half HP into 25 into done. Shaggyshenk finds another one. 7, 0, and 5. Welcome to the SPL, Cupid. It's your debut.
It's your debut with Cupid and the Zeus. Oh my goodness, that damage is just so ridiculous right now. Tier being able to push at the very end of the game by himself, still being able to find that mid Phoenix 4v4 on the left-hand side. CC are looking like a whole different team right now.
Yeah, Axioz was Axioz, really, I mean, was able to take that lead, a tiny lead given to him in the solo lane, and then just spiral it out of control. Jungler really was paying more attention into the mid lane. That really was a story of Axioz by himself on that tier.
He tried to find some early ganks early on, Jungler did, but he couldn't really find anything. Cherryo was just content at sitting in the lane farming whenever he did. The dual lane control that they had, being able to take the red buff, kind of snowballed a little bit after there. Even though like Leftovers did get the gold fear earlier on, the fact that they forced teamfights on the Leftovers speed buff repeatedly over and over again was what allowed Cringe Crew to open the game wide open.
Stealing away some of the benefits that the jungle offers the team, and then just stealing away the lives of the other team was certainly the way that Cringe Crew were able to find a quick win. Hoping for